It's blue sky. It looks like an amazing day. I can tell you, it's not been. It's been solid rain since I got up this morning, and I've been sort of chomping at the bit, waiting for the rain to clear so I could get out. And it's going to be, well, mixed. So I might be dodging the showers. But I've got so much that I want to get done. So I thought, I know, I'll get out there while the sun's out and make hay. Well, not hay, raised beds actually. Let me show you what I've been thinking. So you'll have seen I amassed the pieces of wood and the cold frame together, and I've been looking at this and deliberating for a couple of days. And well, I figured that I'd need additional wood if I was going to make a raised bed that would stretch the whole length of this square. And looking at the cold frame as part of that configuration meant that, well, it would have to be quite shallow, and I just don't know whether I can use a strip that thin. I really need it to be a bit longer. So I thought the acid test is to get out here and put one or two of my metal hoops in lengthways and widthways and see what it meant in terms of how the bed could set out, because those metal hoops are an integral part. So I'm going to get the hoops out and just see what it means with that cold frame, and then perhaps pull together these pieces of wood and just set it out and see what it looks like. I'm really happy with how the compost bins are coming together. That path is actually wider than I need. So if I end up with a wider bed, which would suit me, it's not going to cause a problem with paths either side. So I did nothing to get hoops that I'd already stored, but to take some from this bed, because the bed's going to move at some point anyway. So why not get on with the job of dismantling it slowly but surely, so the net can go away and I can pull the hoops out, and use these to test the widths. And you can see this massive plant here. Well, that's the marigolds, and it's got a really sort of minty smell to it. And I put those in to prevent the growth of bindweed, and well, the success was minimal. But I'm absolutely blown away how tall they got. The biggest thing about keeping the nets on were just keeping the pests away, but I think we got past that period, and I can see in the middle of all of this kale, which got a bit chewed and a bit burnt by the looks of things, new growth has started to come through. So anyway, that's that bed. On to testing those hoops. Oop. Right, here we go. Stick that one up there. So these hoops have traditionally gone in this bed at a full width, and they make a really good arch. And I figure that if I have this cold frame side on, I'm going to struggle to achieve that. It might just work, but it would have to go inside. It's going to be really difficult. So actually, when I put the hoops onto it, it looks like the cold frame's going to have to go this way if I'm going to use it as part of the raised bed arrangement. Okay, let's stick one in there and one in there, and of course it'll be that much higher because it'll be full of soil. But yeah, that's going to work well. So I've just got to work out if I'm going to go that width, where I would have this in terms of position on the bed. I would like to have had it centrally, but it's going to look a bit odd side on, so I think it's probably going to go at one end and then run the other wood off of it. I'm not sure whether I've got enough wood to go the whole length, but I'm sort of resigned to taking it as far as I can, setting it up, and then trying to sort out the end of it in due course if I have to. So right here I've got what, my foot's about 12 inches. I've got nearly 3 feet, and at this end it's too tight, so it's definitely going to have to go across. I'm going to go and get my wheelbarrow and just put it in here, because the wheelbarrow width is pretty key. I'll do that and then shift it over and see what the walkway is I've got the other side. The ground is really wet, so I do need to be careful today. Fortunately on these beds, because it's mainly my own compost, it drains away really quickly. Right, that takes me to the edge of the compost bin. I've got about 6 inches, I reckon, that I can pull it over. Let's call it that. Just move it to and fro, see how it looks. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. Okay, I'll show you the other side. Access only. I seldom have to take the wheelbarrow down here, and I think if I keep the wood tight to the side of this cold frame, i.e. not going on the outside but sitting on the inside, that should give me, yeah, perfectly good walkway. I think that's the way forward. And then my planting space is going to be really quite wide, so if I'm doing a bunch of leeks or something that grows quite wide like a big cabbage, then it should work out okay. Right, so I'm going to stretch these 2 pieces of wood out, put them next to the cold frame, and just see whether I get the full length of the plot. So that is what it would look like. I'm pretty pleased with that, if I'm honest. I thought that the cold frame in the middle might look a bit odd, but actually it looks okay. And if I want to use it as a cold frame, I'll be able to access it from both sides. You can see the width of the beds is going to be substantial, not too dissimilar to the width that I've got on my other raised beds. And it doesn't quite make it to the end, so it's right up to the edge here and not quite to the edge here. But I've got to put ends on those, so if I do the ends so that they overlap, and I'll be making them out of that bed to save buying any more wood, then that should just take up almost the full width, which would be absolutely fantastic. Right, now one problem that it has given me, I don't know if you can see this, but in terms of the wheelbarrow, it's good along here, and then I get to here and the gap is too small for the wheelbarrow, and it's because of the dimensions of this pallet. And I'm thinking I've got 2 more pallets to add. I may be able to find one that's the right width and keep that odd shaped one in the middle, which means I'd have to access the bins from both sides and wouldn't be able to take the barrow through the middle. Or I could find a way of turning that one 90 degrees. It'll stand up a bit higher than the others, but would maintain the walkway, which is probably the most important thing. Right, I think I'm going to settle with that. So what I need to do now is fix these, and before I can do that I need to get the ground level, because it's a bit humpty bumpety where I had the old bed. So I'm going to move the planks out the way and work on getting 2 level strips so I can make all the appropriate fixings. That's got things pretty square. A nice straight line down there and a nice straight line down there. It does slope away, but then so does the whole plot. And I'm not inclined to make allowances for that slope, given it makes no really big difference. So that's got things pretty much on a level. The planks hit the level bottom of the cold frame, and I can just lift those when I fix it, just to make sure it is perfectly level. and well, it won't be perfectly level, but it'll be good enough for me. And then I'm thinking that when I do those fixings, I need to get my parts of the ends sorted out, because I don't want to end up with a big gap down here and no gap down there and then have to shufty the whole thing. So I think what I'm going to do is take this bed apart and just put the planks in the back. I won't cut them on the blocks. I can do that in the garage with my chop saw, so much easier and straighter. So I think what I'll do is just get them in place as fillers so that I get the positioning right, and then I can get to fixing it. Right, let's get that apart and get those fillers in and see what it looks like. Well, what this reveals is that I didn't do a very good job when I set the edge to this path. It's certainly not straight because I have measured those two planks and they are definitely 79 inches each. So the bed is straight, the raised bed is straight, but the edge of the path is not. So maybe I've got myself a bit of an adjustment job to do somewhere later on. I'd have to take these two posts in a bit and straighten things up. But as you will have seen down here, I'm taking the wooden edge out because, well, it's rotten. It's been in there probably 8 or 9 years and it was never very thick. It was just two beams with some, well, chipboard in the middle. It's just not going to stand up to the weather. It was what I had at the time. So I suspect that that edge will come out completely in due course. So I'm not going to get too upset about that now. But those fillers tell me that I can come right to the edge without any problem at all. That one exactly the same. And while I've got them in that space, I'll just run a line up so I can see where I need to cut. And then that puts it pretty much in the right place. So let's stand back and have a long view at that. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So I just need now to fix the ends of these planks, both sides, to the cold frame. And I've got something just for the purpose. I'll show you. So this is what I have. I bought them this morning when I was pretty convinced how I would lay things out. There we go. And well, I could have spent more money on wood and came up with alternative methods, but I thought these were probably better value and a cheaper all-round solution. So these are nail plates. And as you can see, it's a metal plate, mild steel, I think. Actually, it's galvanized, which is good, with multiple holes in it. And what it enables you to do is to cross two pieces of wood, put an awful lot of screws in, as many as you like, in both sides, and that joints the piece of wood. And you can do exactly the same the other side. You get a really strong fixing. And of course, if you do it with two, you get an even stronger fixing. And that's my plan, to use two of these on the outsides and two on the insides. But of course, you need a right angle in this to get in this corner. So when I take those stretchers, those fillers home and cut them to length, I'll put these in the vise and bend them over to a right angle. And then I've got a plate to go inside. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 for each internal corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that uses 8. I'll need 2 for each outside. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. That does the outsides. And that just leaves me the ends. And of course, I can put those in with some of the long screws that I use to take it apart. So I've still got 4 spares in case those right angles don't go too well. But those were 20, what, that's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 for £14, which was an absolute steal, I think. Right, what I'm going to do is just get the edge underneath the cold frame and the plank absolutely straight by putting something like a plank under it, so I know I've got an absolutely straight seam, and then I'm going to pop these in on the outside, and that's going to give me some rigidity to save them falling over. And then it'll be all about taking the various bits home to adjust the size and bend the right angles. So see how I get on. Going nowhere quick, and it's in solidly, and I've put more screws in there than I probably need to, but I wanted a really solid fixing because, well, you know what it's like, you get the temptation to shift things and I don't want it breaking at the joins. By the time I've got it joined in that side as well, it'll be well and truly stuck. So that bit of angle iron worked perfectly for supporting the two straight edges of the base, and I'll use that as I go along and do the others. So I'll get to work on the other three, and then we'll see where we go from there. Well, that just leaves me to head off to the workshop, get those two end bits cut. Just need to mark those up, get those plates angled, and we should be good to go. Nice and solid, won't be going anywhere for years and years, hopefully. Right, workshop. Well, that just leaves me to adjust the size of these two end pieces, and I'm done for today. Lights going. I'm not going back to the plot today. Hope you've enjoyed my video. It's been a bit of a construction special. Anyway, if you did, why not like and subscribe? And if you want my updates, click on the bell every Wednesday and Sunday at 8 PM. Diolch yn fawr.